Hello everyone. So welcome to the monthly current affairs series of Amrita IS, and today we'll be starting with the international affairs of October month. Now with respect to international affair is one of the very tricky subject to tackle. The reasons why, because just reiterating in 1 to 2 minutes, because the articles that come in your newspapers, the Hindu, Indian Express, international affair is having a predominance in these articles. If we say around 30 to 35% of the articles are focused on the international affairs. But if you talk about the significance of the international affair in the mains exam, in your GS2 only four questions come directly from international affairs in your GS2, and within, if you say GS3, some understanding of GS3, that's all. With respect to your prelims also, you can expect 5 to 6 questions in totality, including current affair or some static with respect to international institutions. So from that perspective, it is important. The very key idea is that you have to balance how much time that you are dedicating to these things and how much time you need to dedicate to specifically target mains and prelims. And this is one of the ways you need to balance both the things. Okay, chalo. Right. So today we'll be talking in the just to giving you some idea, because sometimes the one of the problem the mistakes the aspirant commit, that is they give a disproportionate focus to international affairs in their preparation, which may not be required. More or less, you just require a basic understanding of the IR about each and every India's relation with each and every country, some basic idea that what stated it was, at what status it is, and each and every time you don't have to remember it, revise it, just revise it. Once you have read it, revise it, just new addition comes in. Okay, we'll talk about it more the more we go along. Okay, chalo. So let's start with the first one, that is country specific events. So only one event that is in the news, very important event, that is the continuation of the Abraham Accords. Now, if you recall our August 2020 international affairs current affair, we have discussed about Abraham Accords. There I have also discussed about in brief about Israel Palestine history. And now a lot of states who have earlier supported Palestine are now working with a peace treaty with the Israel. We have talked about the two states such as UAE and Bahrain, right? To have this UAE Israel have signed this accord, right? Earlier, only Egypt and your Jordan has signed this accord way back 1979 and 1994. And now it was in the news the Sudan has also signed the accord, right? So Sudan and Israel have agreed to normalize relation in a US broker deal in the decades of hostility. So this year, 2020, UAE, Bahrain, and now the Sudan. So there can be seen one shift in the Arab countries to normalize its relationship with Iran. If you recall that particular session, we have given enough time to discuss that why is it so. It is because they are finding the common enemy, that is Iran. The major challenge is Iran, not Israel. First thing. Secondly, they want to normalize relationship with Israel to come in terms or harmony with the United States as well, because United States is a staunch ally of the Israel and also in some of the countries in the Arab world, right? So that is the idea. And plus, Israel is one country which also requires their help to remain peacefully. And these countries require money, foreign investment from Israel to come in, right? Because these are very poor countries, conflict ridden countries. So they'll require the technology, the expertise, the money, the finance, the technology from countries such as Israel and USA to get things done. And now they're thinking only in terms of prosperity or let's say growth, not conflicts and all. Chalo. So the announcement makes a Sudan technically, which is technically at war with Israel since 1948, found its foundation, Israel's foundation, the third ever country to force a diplomatic relationship after UAE and Bahrain. And obviously, it would be condemned by Palestinians. It will be condemned by the Iranians. It will be condemned by Pakistanis, because Pakistan is also not in the favor of having a peace deal with Israel. Pakistan also calls the countries which is causing these peace deals that they are backing out from their Palestinian cause and all these things, right? So, and no, what is the difference between Sudan having deal with Israel and apart from the UAE and Bahrain? One important thing is that Sudan has given the military or the army their personnel while fighting against the Israel in the previous wars, unlike the UAE and Bahrain, right? which never fought with the Israel. Sudan sent its force in the war against the Israel in the creation 1948 and the war 1967. For Israel also, the benefit will be, you can see from the location itself, the benefit will be, now you are having a peace deal. Israel is having peace deal with Egypt. Israel is having peace deal with Jordan, with Sudan, and non-normalizing relation with Saudi Arabia. Some people believe that that would be a very historic event. Even Saudi Arabia signed some sort of a peace deal with Israel. In fact, these deals are stepping stones so that finally Saudi also signs the peace deal with Israel. But that would be a big, big, big thing, right? Because Saudi Arabia is the leader of this pack. Chalo. So Israel will get peaceful entry into this Red Sea, right? So this is something which Israel really wants because this is a very, very important corridor, isn't it? So that's the idea. So this is your Israel-Sudan deal. One of the benefits the Sudan will get, that is that will come out of the US state-sponsored terrorism list. So US maintains this list, and US has obviously said that we will take you out of this list if you sign deal with Israel. Right? So there is a quid pro quo for both the sides, that is Israel and that is your Sudan. Now, what are the ramifications when they were there in the state sponsored list? Imagine if you are put into the state sponsored list, what you will be, you will not get any foreign funding. You will be, your country will be designated as terrorist state by the powerful, most powerful country of the world. So foreign funding won't come, any investment, ease of doing business, nothing will come. So obviously you will get all this poor technology, nothing will come. So you'll always remain in the state of poverty, something like that. So United States Secretary of State has given the power to designate the country that have repeatedly provided support for the act of international terrorism as the state-sponsored terrorism. Okay? So this is one thing also you need to remember. So that's all with respect to the countries in news. So what we've discussed, that is the previous. If you want to go back, you can download our PDF from the August month from our Amrita IS channel, and you can watch that particular clip when we have discussed the Israel-Palestine issue in detail. Next, we talk about the international institutions which have been in the news. One important institution that remains in the news, the question has been asked in the mains exam as well. That is the United Nations Human Rights Council, important institution. So UNGA, that is United Nations General Assembly, has passed this resolution in 2006 to set up this United Nations Human Rights Council. It's a very important institution. So Geneva, Switzerland, it's the headquarter. Why it was in the news recently in the October month? Because Pakistan has got elected as a member of this UNHRC. We'll discuss that. India is also currently the member of the UNHRC, right? India has previously been elected as the member of, or it's basically 3-year cycle. So 2011 to 14, 14 to 17 term. UNHRC members are elected by the General Assembly with 3 years terms with a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. So you can get only 2 consecutive terms, then you have to break and then you'll get another term. Now, for example, so when we have discussed that they have a 3-year cycle. So just like Rajya Sabha, every year election takes place. So 1/3 member go out and 1/3 election takes place. So every time you'll have the election every year. For example, this year's election, you have China, Pakistan getting entry, Russia getting entry. So you can see the countries which are having the very poor human rights record. Pakistan, China, Russia, they are into this. Philippines, you can say currently. India is also part of UNHRC but it is in the last cycle. So next year, India will go out of this because next year election, India's term has ended, right? So this is how it operates. Now again, India can seek the re-election because it's a consecutive term. One consecutive term is allowed. So this is where the issue is that Pakistan has been re-elected into the United Nations Human Rights Council. So one thing we understood that it 3-year term, every year election takes place. Very easy to understand, like the Rajya Sabha. United Nations General Assembly, UNGA's institute is there, right? Now, a few more things. For example, they conduct these peer reviews of the human rights. So peer review of the records of the human rights, universal periodic review process where all the states are scrutinizing currently in its 3rd cycle. So basically they do this review of the United human rights cycle. United States of America has quit the UNHRC in 2018. And that was a very big news in 2018. United States, when Trump was there. Why have they done so? because the Israel issue. Let me see if I have the, no, I've not kept the slide. So basically, Mr. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of the Israel, has said that this UNHRC is a very hypocritical uh, agency. Why? Because it criticizes Israel for its human rights abuses, right? Versus it does not call out the Palestinians who also commit the wrong things. Secondly, this is the view of Israel. Secondly, they also kept the members such as China, Russia. They don't tell these names, but China, Russia, Pakistan, these countries are also part of the UNHRC. How can these countries can be the part of the Human Rights Council when they themselves are a very huge human rights violator? And they call that there is a, for Israel there is a bias. And for when they say that there is a bias for Israel, then United States, especially Mr. Trump, who is a supporter of the Israel, has said that we will back out of the UNHRC. Why we should support an institution that is showing a bias, a very apparent bias to our most ally, to most of our trusted ally. So that is not done. So that is the idea. Okay? So it was in the PIB that these countries have become part of the your UNHRC. So decision of the UNHRC are not legally binding. These decisions are not legally binding. So one thing that we need to remember. There is important, that is United Nations Special Rapporteurs. So what is this? It's a term for French which means investigators. So basically these are the people who do what? Who do this human rights thing, that in which country human rights violation is taking place and all these things. They work on a country or a thematic mandate specified by the United Nations Human Rights Council. So United Nations Rapporteur issue concern with India's draft EIA Act. Take Environment Impact Assessment Act, the problems were highlighted by this agency. Next is, what are the concerns with the United Nations HRC? Let us very quickly summarize. For example, some members, as we have discussed, those who are systematic human rights offender yet leading role. On paper, they are upholding the highest standards. On paper, when the UNHRC says that we are upholding the highest standards and you are not punishing those, in fact, you are rewarding those with election, then the very concept of the human rights is a controversial issue. For example, we have discussed with Israel and Palestine, right? So for some, it is a human rights issue. For some, it is a national security issue. For some, it is a human rights issue. For some, it is not a human rights issue. Some say it's a sovereignty argument. India says that Kashmir is an internal issue. Northeast, what is happening in Northeast, it is our internal issue. So it has nothing to do with the human rights. It has to do with the law and order. Then very important idea that UNHRC avoids the tough questions and take up the soft issues such as elderly, children, disabled, differently abled. But tough questions such as human rights abuse, let's say by China and Uyghur Muslims, or human rights abuse done by USA in the prisons. So this is what the tough questions, right? Avoiding the tough questions. Then alleged bias versus the Israel. US call it a cesspool of the political bias. UNHRC. Lack of the effectiveness, national interest versus the human rights, because every time it boils down to, for human rights, you would, if you want to do something, UNHRC, every country will say it is in our national interest and we won't allow you to do anything. The confusion between CHR versus UNHRC, we'll see that. So there is one more institute that is working for the human rights, and there is a confusion between both of them. And then there is a secret ballot. So whenever the election takes place, it takes place through secret ballot. So you never get to know that who are the countries which have voted for Pakistan. Otherwise, you can quickly call them shame out or something like that. You can persuade them, then don't do this. But as it is a secret ballot, so you don't know which countries have voted for which countries to be the part of the UNHRC. That's all with respect to UNHRC. Now the second institution that we have to discuss, that is OHCHR. It's OHCHR. Now these are the 6 principles organ of the United Nations. United Nations ke these are the 6 principal organ. One time we can discuss it. One is very important, United Nations General Assembly. The most effective and most important is United Nations Security Council. Next is ICJ, United Nations Economic and Social Council, and UN Secretariat. You can imagine UN Secretariat just as having the cabinet, in India cabinet, and this is your or day-to-day functioning, and this is your parliament. Now, as we have discussed that UNHRC comes from यूनाइटेड नेशंस जनरल असेंबली. ठीक. दिस इज व्हाट आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट द फ्रेमवर्क. थोड़ा ये क्लियर हो जाएगा ना. In every chapter, in every subject, you need to be very clear with under which umbrella this body is lying. So United Nations Human Rights Council is lying under the United Nations General Assembly. This body, the new body, this is UOHCHR, lies under the United Nations Secretariat. So a bit of executive body. Now, this body is a bit controversial because this has given a lot of statements on Kashmir. Okay? This statement by the OHCHR, that is Office of the United Nations High Commission for the Human Rights. For example, last year it was in the news that OHCHR report on the Kashmir as the violation of India's sovereignty and integrity, Ministry of External Affairs. ठीक. So Ministry of External Affairs, you can imagine India is a part of the UNHCR, Human Rights Council, HRC. But India is saying something that no, your report is against our. So this is a different body and this is a different body. This body is United Nations General Assembly and this body is related to the United Nations Secretariat. Okay. So the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights is often confused with HRC. It's a separate institution which represents the reports independent of this. The recent report on the Kashmir is an example of it. Okay. It is worked with the mandate provided by the General Assembly in the resolution this, and it works within the United Nations Secretariat Department. That's all you need to remember and you need to know. Next one, that is in the international affairs, that is United Nations Office for the Disaster Risk Reduction. If you recall in the indexes and reports chapter, we discussed about the human cost of the disaster. Very good report. We have discussed about it. So it is presented by United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. So this is your context. So this United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction lies in your United Nations Secretariat, right? So it is an organizational unit behind the. Just one second. It's a part of the United Nations Secretariat, UNDDR. So you can make your notes also like that. Ki bhai, United Nations ke, these are the 5 important parts. This is a very defined body. And within this is UNDDR, this is OHCHR, right? This is UNGA. So usme kaun sa hai? UNHRC, UNSC. Why it is in the news? Because now India is a two-term member in this. India has become member this year only, right? For 2-year term. So this is how an ICJ, always remember Kulbhushan Yadav case, hai na? A recent case in the Myanmar. So it also remains in the news. So why each and every body is in the news? So that's the reason. So United Nations unit on the United Secretary is led by the United Nations Special Representative for the Secretary General Disaster Risk. 1999 it was set up, headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, and it talked about the human cost of the disaster, right? So Sendai framework was basically designed by the UNDRR. Sendai framework, very, very important framework for disaster risk resilience, disaster risk reduction. Next is United Nations Alliance for Civilization. Not a very important institution, but you can imagine it like an institution of the Margadarshak Mandal kind of thing. You know? So it was started by the Kofi Annan, political initiative by the Kofi Annan, former United Nations General Secretary, by government of Spain and the Turkey. 2005 it was established in New York. So recently it was in the news because it condemned the beheading of a teacher that happened in Paris. Very brutal thing that has happened in Paris. So it seeks to galvanize the international actions against the extremist through the forging of the international, intercultural, interreligious dialogue and cooperation. So good things, Margadarshak Mandal, good things, not important as such. Next is the very important, that is the World Food Program. So it has got the Nobel Peace Prize because of the work it has done during the COVID-19, right? So fighting against the hunger, fighting against the malnutrition. For example, in India, government of UP and World Food Program, they have worked together for addressing the malnutrition. It's only in September month 2020 last year. So this is your World Food Program. Why in the news? Because they have got the Nobel Peace Prize. Some details of it. So it's a food assistance branch of the United Nations, and it's the world's largest humanitarian organization and the largest one focused on hunger and food security. Established in 1961 by the FAO and the United Nations General Assembly, headquartered in Rome and Italy. Rome and Italy also is the headquarter of the FAO. ठीक है, तो वो भी याद रखना है. In addition to the emergency food relief, World Food Program offers technical assistance and the development aid such as building capacity for emergency preparedness, response, managing supply chain, logistics, promoting social safety program, strengthening resilience against the climate change, these things. Agency is also a major provider for direct cash assistance and the medical supplies and provides passenger service for the humanitarian workers. Okay? That's all is important. Next is the Beijing Declaration and Platform Action. We have already discussed about it. So basically, United Nations used to have these conferences earlier on the women. So for example, first conference happened in Mexico, then Copenhagen, then Nairobi. You have to remember these things. The more important that is the fourth conference, which was held in Beijing. It was one of the largest ever gathering of the United Nations and a critical point in the world's focus on gender equality and the empowerment of the women. It is known as the Beijing Declaration, Beijing Conference, and then Beijing Declaration. So Beijing Declaration was related to the women equality. This can be asked, huh? This year they have asked such questions. So obviously 2020 may they have completed the 25 years. Every 5 years some report is being taken. So why it's in the news? Because Ministry of Women, Child and Development and the National Commission for Women, United Women have organized a national consultation on the review of the Beijing Plus 25. So it marks the 25th anniversary of the fourth World Conference on the Women and the adoption of the Beijing Declaration. Okay? From current affairs, you just need to know things and you need to relate ki bhai in which context this sets up. So it is the review is being taken up by the Commission of the Status of the Women, right? Worldwide. So Commission of the Status of the Women is a functional commission of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. This is one of the principal organ of the United Nations. है ना, one of the 5 जो देखे थे हमने, उसमें one of those is this ECOSOC. It is obviously not a legal binding document, and that's all we need to remember. The last thing that we're going to study, the last fact, that is the Daring Cities Conference. Now, the idea is that it's a global forum on the climate change and urban leaders tackling the COVID emergency, especially in the context of the climate emergency, in the context of the COVID pandemic. Okay, so Arvind Kejriwal is invited and he spoken in the virtual meeting. That's all. Two important things. First important thing, that it is not organized by United Nations or any global organization, UNFCCC, related to climate change. It's organized by some institute, local governments for sustainability and Bonn city with the support of German government. So not very important per se. So importantly, you just need to remember, no, it was not organized by the United Nations or any major body, just local bodies and these coming together. But it has really good keywords. You can see local government for sustainability, federal ministry, corporation, Bonn, savings bank, Bonn, state government of North Rhine and Westphalia. So mainly the German government. But it has a really good keywords, few keywords which we can use. First is this: know more, act better, and learn it together. This can be your conclusions in your essays also. Know more means presents the most cutting research and information on the climate change with city region relevance. It brings latest data, innovation, necessary skills into focus. Act better means showcase action happening around the ground. Acting better spans climate adaptation, resilience, renewable energy, inclusive approach. Lead together, showcase dozen of the case studies, sharing of the best practices and all these things, effective governance, partnership, and finance. So one thing is that, so this is one of the set of keywords which you can remember, this. One also important thing, that is the idea that jo showcase karta hai, two ideas. First idea that the COVID, we have a COVID-19, we had a vaccine available, right? Vaccine was made, even it took some time, but we made a vaccine for it. But there is no vaccine for climate change. This idea you can use whenever you talk about the climate change. So there is no vaccine to the climate change. Only thing we can do is building long-term resilience against the climate change. Second thing, it builds upon the idea that resilience is fine. What do we mean by resilience? Resilience is fine, that we develop such resilience. So something adverse is happening and we shield ourselves. We make ourselves capable enough to fight against that, the storm that is coming in front of us. But from that resilience, we need to move from daring. We need to take up some challenge. We cannot be defensive. We need to be offensive, or we need to be proactive, preemptive with respect to climate change. That means we need to take some risks as well. What do you mean by the risks? Very quickly, risk in terms of the, for example, let us say taking a bold step. No, by 2030, we will do everything electrical vehicle. Even if it seems to be having some short term cost or it involves a lot of risks. But to tackle such climate emergency, you need to become from resilient to daring. So it's a good idea which you can use in wherever you want to use. Okay? And it is the cities which can be daring, because they are facing the most problems and they are causing the most problems. So they have to be the most daring of them all. And that is why on this context, this conference has been set up. Okay? So if you can use it, such ideas, wonderful. So with this, we finish our today's session, that is the international affairs one. In the next session, we'll talk about some bilateral stuff. For example, we'll talk about India Central Asia relationship a bit, because India Central Asia dialogue, it's in the news. And secondly, we'll talk about India USA and all. So with this, we finish our lesson. Keep revising, download the PDF from our channel. See you in the next session. Bye bye. Thank you.